Welcome to Bass and Bonsai. We are back in the house on the little bench talking about the baits that I used today, what worked and what didn't work, and what I'm going to advance to. And then we got a few baits over here that I've been kind of redoing and making a couple new ones so we have backup. So anyway, whoa, I dropped my knife. I'm also going to talk about a few baits I'm probably going to bring back into my lineup. So to just start off, I did go fishing today. I'm going to call it like beat the heat maybe, but there was no heat to beat because it really didn't get hot all the way up till noon because there was overcast and stuff. Kind of sticky feeling, but wasn't too bad. Roughly 85-degree water temps all day long. Sun never really popped out for very long. It didn't warm up the water that much anyway. So there'll probably be two separate videos. Morning bite, beat the heat, and then a grind, beat the heat kind of deal, because we did catch quite a few different fish, but not on all these different baits. So for whatever reason, my whopper plopper bite is still more or less non-existent. So I threw both of these. I think I missed a pretty nice one on this one with the tequila baccarat again. Or no, actually, was it? Yeah, maybe. Anyway, that was early in the morning, but I don't know, what used to be like a go-to topwater, the buzz baits are kind of dominating right at this moment for whatever reason. So the still tried and true that still is the better color of the two. I didn't even get out the black and blue today because I don't like the darker one with the gold, and I did throw the white. This one did kick in, and I caught a few fish with it. So I was throwing this on the GLX, and I started throwing this on the Super Destroyer just to double check myself on the Super Destroyer, and actually the hookup ratio was pretty good. So the buzzbait was the main deal that was working in the morning, and then I had switched to, and that's, you'll probably see a couple other things, maybe a couple chatterbaits, but in the morning one, and that was kind of it. So then when I switched to the grind, we started throwing a lot of different stuff, and I'll talk about what didn't work. So as a backup bait, which worked, and then just throwing it by itself, this has always worked at the place I'm talking about fishing, and it worked again today. I forget the name of that. I just call it orange and green pumpkin or orange and brown, but it's Alabama craw or something, what they call it. That color just continues to work. I was trying to throw, like where I'd get bit with this, I would throw this too to double check it, and I'm telling you guys, as a trailer on the back of a chatterbait, sometimes even a spinnerbait, I love this color. By itself, I just do not like this color worm. So I'm not throwing it anymore on like on a shaky head or just, as like a wacky rigged or none of that. So anyway, this bait definitely still works. The baby brush hog. I didn't even try any other colors because I felt like they were there hitting. It did work. Now, what I also did try that didn't work, I don't think I ever got a hit on this. So I was getting hit on the bluegill colored chatterbait, so I figured I pulled out our Andy Morgan one that I put the bluegill 2 skirt on, that I kind of just cut down the weight. I wasn't trying to make a screaming anything. I just cut down some of the weight like I do on the Screaming Thunder Crickets to make it a little lighter, and that helped. It felt like I could just pull it through, because it always feels like it wants to get caught up more for some reason than a lot of my other half-ounce baits. So I just lightened it a little bit, but I thought if I put the baby brush hog color that had been working on the back, just as like a little bit of a trailer kind of thing, I thought, well, maybe I can, get a bigger bite. This thing never got bit. Like, they don't like that. That configuration is, I'm actually going to take it off right now because it just does not work. I was leaving on to show you that I was trying that, and I just didn't even really get into a very much of a jig bite, because I'll talk about that in a minute. Although I did catch some on this, we were kind of more or less, the whole time I was there anyway, kind of had stayed on a moving bait bite. I did catch a couple on this jig. So that's the crocogator that I added some of the living rubber purple and brown to. Peanut butter and jelly crocogator. I think that's a 3/8 ounce. It may be half. I think it's 3/8. But then that's a full size Rage Menace, green pumpkin, purple and gold flake. It did work. Set this over here with the, here's the didn'ts and the dids. I didn't even throw these guys. I just didn't get around to putting them up. I threw this briefly and never got hit. I just thought if, now I'll talk about some of these chatterbait colors. If this chatterbait was getting hit, and if this chatterbait was getting hit, that maybe that would get hit too. But that Fire Tiger S-crank knockoff. So it's got a light rattle. These S-crank knockoffs, some of them have crazy rattle and some of them just have a little rattle. The original S-crank from Megabass does not rattle at all. I think that little weight in the belly sometimes makes a little rattle, sometimes don't. Because I do have one and it slightly has a little, not as loud as that. The rock, it just, the bite. And this thing looks way more beat up than it's ever really caught fish for me. But I threw it quite a bit, but today it kind of worked, it kind of didn't. I caught a couple, it wasn't like the go-to kind of thing. So after the buzzbaits, then I would still throw a buzzbait, and every once in a while they'd hit a buzzbait, but I ended up, the main two, of course, the Screaming Thunder Cricket. Now I switched, when I had this one on it, that little more bright, and it got ripped up to the point where it just didn't stay on right. So I'm going to melt it and reuse it, but because it's still good there. But I switched and I thought, well, I'll go a little bit more natural, lighter. And then I chewed this one up. So it still got like a couple bites after that, but it was really kicking in when I had that brighter, a little bit brighter orange on it. It was working pretty good. And then this dude was probably getting bit as much, if not more, with the even brighter kind of look to it. It's kind of hard to tell here, but out in the sunlight, this trailer definitely has a more intense thing to it. So it was working, but man, my hookup ratio is horrible with this one. And I had it on the, I think today I had it on the blade only. But yeah, I had it on the blade, and it just, and man, it was like catch one, not catch one, catch one, not catch one. I'm like, man, that thing's, the hookup ratio's not for me. I don't know what it is. I mean, they're more active. I don't know if it's because that's a smaller hook and you're dealing with a lot more weight out there, so they can, you know, they've got more weight working against me kind of thing. But it was definitely getting hit. That color right there. I do like that color. I don't know if I like that bait. I don't know if I even threw this one. Thursday night, when I first got them, I did get, I managed fish on each one of them. I don't even know if I actually even threw that one today, to tell you the truth. If I did, it was only like for just a couple casts and switched to this one, because I figured that was the color kind of going. So anyway, today, the water is still kind of murky compared to what it normally is because of the rain. And so I should have taken this right back off and got the brightest one in there to try to match that, but I was just, since I had that one and this one back and forth. But the chatterbait bite was working in the grass, but it seemed a little off, a little slowed down. So what I figured from Thursday night, I kept seeing a lot of stuff further out from the bank, further out from the bank. And although you can do it sort of with the chatterbait, and I was doing it, sometimes it's just as easy if they're willing to come a little higher out of the grass, is with a rattle trap, right? Because the rattle trap, you can't really get out of the gunkier stuff, you know, it gets a little more caught up. But so out of these three, so we've got, I'll talk about the ones that did work, because the best bite in the afternoon was a toss-up probably between rattle traps or the Screaming Thunder Cricket, but it was like in the grass. So if I got in a spot where these, you know, either too shallow or just so gunky grassy that I was gunked up with these, and if I threw the Thunder Cricket, I usually, you know, would maybe catch one here or there, and then these more out in the open water but around grass kind of thing. But this one sucked. I never got hit. That 6 cents that I'm trying to like, that one just did not kick in. This one is a Strike King, and these are all 1/2 ounce, by the way. The Strike King, it was the first one I was throwing, and I was throwing it on, and we lost probably the biggest fish of the day on that KBD 7-foot square bill or red eye shad rod, right? Nope. I felt like I set the hook pretty good, and that sucker just spit it right back out at me. So it was kind of working, you know, notice the little orange on the bellies, right? I think actually, if I don't think I actually have the best rattle trap that would have been working. I think if I would have had one with the side like this and then a little more orange down the whole length of it, it's probably the best one. But between these two, this one kind of kicked in and seemed to be the better of the two. So the Booyah Hard Knocker in a 1/2 ounce, kind of a, I don't know if that's what they call a bluegill color, but you know, just these colors was what I thought would work. And I thought, and I don't know if just because this looks more of a red than an orange, it's kind of orange, but it almost looks red once you put it up around other oranges. It's a way more intense of an orange anyway. And I would have thought, as much as these were getting hit, that this was a close enough color. Like it. But anyway, no. A no-go on that one. A yes, not horrible. But then I still have to give it to my Booyah Hard Knockers. They just, for whatever reason, probably because despite what any of you say, that is a copy of the Excalibur, the XR50s or whatever. And if you go look at right now, Tackle Warehouse, that new XR whatever, the square bill, they say right on it that they brought back the Excalibur whatever square bill. So I'm telling you, Booyah either bought out Excalibur when they went out of business or whatever, but they that's an Excalibur bait basically, because I have some, and it is like almost, so either they're have the molds and are making them, maybe they're going to be a slightly different, but that's as close as you're going to get to an Excalibur bait. But these things are, in my opinion, work pretty awesome. So in the future, I think I'm just going to stick with Booyah. I'm going to slowly, you know, maybe use them, maybe just sell them off, get rid of all my other, I've just never, every time there's that cold weather when you're yo-yoing them or jigging them off the bottom, to where LV500 I think is either as good or maybe slightly better. But the 6 cents, I keep trying to like them, and I watch Charles fishes with that one, and I have them that same color, the crackle craw, and he does fairly good with them. But I just can't, when I put them side by side, even with the red eye shad, I feel they don't stand up to these. So I don't know, I just don't see a point in having a ton of different ones, because the Booyah Hard Knocker will work in almost any situation. I think I just need a few more different colors, and possibly even have a couple painted up in the colors I like, because although they're ghosty one, or ghost, they're bony, I call it the zombie, they call it, I forget what they call it, that one's the white is a little off for me, but it does work, and I think it works more than the color works, is just because of what it is. So if it's a little white, it will work. But I like the Toledo Gold as my favorite of the bunch. I just, this year, that kind of stuff hadn't really worked. But anyway, so let me talk about let me read some comments, and then we'll talk about what I'm bringing back also. I'm going to, if you guys, the next several videos you're going to see is because before 4th of July, I started going to Lake Lafayette out in Odessa, Missouri, and then I've just kind of been going back to try to find patterns right on that little, it's a little lake, but it, you know, I've got the little bass baby, so I'm only trolling motor powered. So for me, I can get around it. I technically could cover all of it if I just started and like trolling motor on one and never stopped. I could probably go around the whole thing in a day. Actually, in probably half a day, but I always, you know, stop at spots and been finding spots. But so anyway, those baits between buzzbait, so I guess if I had to pick the best out of the best, would be the main 3 baits. This jig I didn't do enough jigging, but this one did catch a few. Probably could have caught more if I'd used it more. But bottom bouncing was this and this jig. But I really didn't do a lot of that because there was a kind of a moving bite going. So earlier in the morning, and then transitioned a little bit to like this, and then at the very end was, and then the very last fish of the day, showstopper deal was on this dude with that tail. But you'll see in the video. But then this guy. So those 3 baits, as far as like moving baits throughout the day from 5:30 roughly till noon, and we caught a lot of fish, and we caught a lot on that. We caught quite a few on that, but we did lose a few on that. We missed a few on this one too. I don't know if I missed any on this one. I was throwing this on no, I did miss them on this too. That's right. Yeah, the poison adrena. I missed a few on this guy, and I was throwing that guy on the. I started out. I was throwing the 6.3 to 1 to Tula on that KVD red eye shad rod, and I put that rod down. I pulled out the KVD jerkbait rod with the hypermag 7.5 to 1. Way better. I still, like everything. I don't know. We're just in that deal to where some of them grab it like trying to eat it, and there's no way you could have lost them. And then others, I swear, they're just hitting at it. So they're coming up, hooked on the outside of the mouth, and then all it takes a lot of times is one like jump, and they just doop, they're gone. You're like, what? So that kind of deal. Because we managed to lose fish on every rod I threw today. Lost a fish or 2. But we caught a bunch, and then we lost several dinks that I don't even know. Like some of them, I'm not kidding you. So I got in a thing of like setting the hook good. So if they were, 10, sometimes probably 12-inch and smaller fish, a lot of them literally I yanked completely out of the water. They went flying by the boat and like flew off, or maybe never were even hooked. I kind of snagged them or whatever. So I was just one of those days. But it was doing good. I actually wore myself out. I could have stayed a lot longer, but I was in a let's go mode, let's go, because I wanted to get as much fishing in before the heat came. They kept talking, watch the forecast, and unless there were storms hit like from 5 to 6, it showed no storms coming, no nothing. So they were calling like a heat index of 104. So I'm out there like in a speed mode fishing and not slowing down. And then I just get to the point where I'm like, you know what? Because then it clouded back up around 8:30 or 9. And then by 10, I'm thinking, man, I've done worn myself out. And I could probably, if I'd have just slowed down a little bit, probably could have fished here all day long. I didn't bring any all I had with me was Diet Coke, basically. I'm like, I could have brought, a sandwich, something to eat, and then, maybe a bottled water or 2 or a Gatorade or something, and, stuck it out for a lot longer. But I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm already done anyway. So by noon, I got out of there. Fireball Friday this week. Yeah, you missed Fireball Friday night. That was last night. I did have Fireball. I actually still have, I'm on my last little Fireball right now. So I'm debating if I'm going to go fishing tomorrow or not. But what I did do is, since I was losing eyes right and left, you'll see that this, we put him back together, right? Humpty Dumpty fell apart. So this I think was the second one I made, was getting chewed up. So I just added some green paint. He was missing an eye, so he's a red eye. He's not a red eye shad, but he's a red eye screaming thunder cricket. Changed out the skirt. So here's what the OG. I'm going to leave him alone. He's going to fish. He hasn't lost an eye yet, but he's destroyed. This is the first screaming thunder cricket on the planet, right? So almost should put him up. If I catch a giant bass with him, I'll put him up. But if not, I'm just going to keep fishing him. But that's the OG. This one was the second one, and he was looking as bad as the OG. So I just kind of freshened him back up, added a little paint, put on a new skirt that I might pull a few strands. It usually doesn't take long. You start fishing them, and these strands start falling apart. They start getting flaky, and I pick out the short ones kind of deal. But that's the OG. He's still around. There's the one that has a little different skirt color, but he's not. I can't remember when he came along shortly thereafter. But there's the original second string, uh, black and bluegill is still around. He's still. I didn't even get him out today. So then this one I've had. I guess I just don't get him out fishing up. But I tried to darken him up a little bit more. He's kind of had that lighter green head, and so I darkened him up. But then the one that this guy was kicking in and doing good. He lost an eye, so I had to I put another eye back on him, and then added a little bit of blue to the blue that was getting fade off because I fished him hard in the last. You can see he's getting almost to the point of the OG one, and that's with the bluegill 2 from Dirty Jig Skirt. So I decided to make another one of those. So we got a brand new one I broke out today, turned it into a Screaming Thunder cricket, added brand new skirt. So we have a backup for that guy, and we got a backup for that guy, and this guy I don't think needs any backup because that's not technically my favorite color. And then I also went ahead and made up another one. If you remember right, there's a time when that crazy color was the hot color, and I haven't even thrown it since that first week when I was testing all these bluegill colors together. This was the one that was getting hit the most, and then the very next week we went out, it didn't get hit the most. So I haven't actually even hardly thrown that color in just the Jackie Hammer knockoffs. So I figured I might as well make a Screaming Thunder cricket. I probably need to shorten that skirt up a little bit, but I'm going to try it just the way, as long as what the skirt comes right off the bat. Because today I think this would have worked. The water's still dirty enough, and I could probably put one of those, what do they call those? What are those dirty jigs? Or big bite baits. The sweet potato pie. Kamikaze swim on from Big Bite Baits. That sweet potato pie would probably actually go good with that just to keep it bright, or you could always tone it down just with one of the lighter colored ones, because this color was the one I think when we were putting this guy on it, and I was flat tearing them up that one day. So I wish I would have had it today. That's what, when I got home, I'm like, I'm making one up just so I have it to try when I'm feeling like, they're not necessarily on a bright, I don't know, just sometimes that more yellowy color kicks in along with those bluegill colors, and then other times they just want more orange, and then other times they want more blue or whatever. So I want to have all the bases covered with the Screaming Thunder crickets. Now, I think, because I did try, like I mentioned, between this guy and this guy, I'm like, you know what? Because I really wasn't in as deep as what this can go. I was kind of wanting to go a little, but I was just grinding this, even in shallow water. But I'm like, you know what I've missed? Do you know the bait I miss? I'm going to show you guys the bait I miss. Hang on. Because I got them. I've had them. I took them back out because they quit making them. But I'm like, just because they quit making them, if I still got them, why don't I throw them? Because I still got, I got them. Is this guy right here? Do you guys remember the Jabberjaw? It was a couple years ago. Everybody, Jacob Wheeler, and oh, the Jabberjaw. Now it's whew, non-existent. But this is the bait that, this color especially, almost every time I throw it, I could either get on a bite with either the deeper diving one or the shallow one. And I don't remember. It's on video. I have to go back and look. One of these, I got a pretty nice pair of fish. I got a double on it, and Matt's the first one. He's like, yeah, when it's on, it's on, and that's one thing. Like the Jabberjaw. So I think I'm gonna put it back in my arsenal, because I'm sure for the next several years, if you had to track down a Jabberjaw, you could. And I just like the way they work, right? Because I'm a chatterbait guy. They kind of have that deal, and they do still have, I even pulled it out, and I think they do still make these, but I wasn't as impressed with this guy, so I had taken him out of the lineup too. But I may throw him back in also, and just because I felt more confident throwing these than those, or especially even that kind of stuff. So that I think it even tells you right on it. Yeah, 7 to 9 feet on this guy. So it's just in that, like, you want to go deeper than what a square bill will go, but you don't need anything too crazy. And that's a deeper one. And then there's a shallow one, tell you. They just call it the Jabberjaw 60, and then this is a 67 to 9 feet. But I mean, I've caught them on those other colors, and I may still have a few other colors floating around. But that was a color that just flat, like I could do some damage with when, like if they were on sort of a hard bait kind of deal. Hang on. Let me read the comments. You guys are getting this whole different deal going. Yeah, that's why here it's been crazy hot, and then but like half the days it's just overcast. Like it's will go overcast, or if it's not, it's like hotter than crap. And even when it's overcast, it's still like that humid kind of feel. But today was a good day. I mean, I didn't catch any monsters or anything, but I was always on like every. I called it every. I think I mentioned it in the. You'll see in the video. I'm like, man, like every 40 to 60 yards, there is a bass waiting to hit. The bait that you're throwing by the grass. Because wind was blowing on the shallower, which what I like, the shallower side with the grassier side. The deeper side, I never even went over to. I saw a guy in a kayak. He was over there, and this guy's fishing kind of what I call weird. I definitely don't fish that way, but he was fishing backwards in his kayak, and he was throwing two rods on either side with the bobber, and just like letting the wind blow him. Or every once in a while, I think he would like had his little paddle, whatever you call it, out. But then he was fishing with the spinning rod off to the side of all of that. And I don't know what he had, but he was definitely keeping his fish. He had a little like basket off the side of the kayak. And I didn't see him. I watched him. He was kind of floating around over there on some of the deep ends that I normally would go try. And I don't think I watched him pull in anything over there. Then when he came over where I was fishing, because he saw me catching fish, then he caught a few. He was catching a few smaller bass. I'm not even sure I wasn't even paying attention to him, what he was using, but there was only him, and there was another guy and a gal in a little V-bottom boat. Well, I call it little, 16-foot maybe, V-bottom low. That I think they always come and fish like worms. They're definitely on bottom. They're going like slow, kind of drifting along and throwing worms or something on bottom, because worms do work there. But I was gonna break out some worm deal. Like if you guys remember, I went and I tried this worm, and like after one fish, the worm tore it apart, and I'm like, I'm done. I'm not gonna go, because I can get on every so many, just keep moving around there, and you're gonna get bit either by the rattle traps, possibly that once you get to the rocky points that don't have any grass. If there's no grass, throw something that clicks off the bottom or the rocks. If there's grass, throw something that's going either through them, like in the Screaming Thunder Cricket, or going, kind of tickling the tops of them with that. Or if you had to slow down, then go to like the lighter quarter ounce or even lighter shaky head type deal, 16th ounce, and bouncing it across the tops of the grass. You can always like get bit kind of deal. I didn't have to really slow down. Oh, you guys talking about your dog? Oh, your rivers are straight mud, yeah, with all the rain. The best muddy water chatterbait is the big blade. Far, I would say. Like if it's muddy, you're probably going to want the brightest one you could find. But like, I don't know if anything puts out more of a thump than that. The big blades. But most of your jackhammer style, the jackhammer knockoffs, they're going to thump pretty good. But I would definitely go bright. Like if I'm in muddy water, I'm at least throwing something. Well, if you're saying mud, chocolate milk would probably be that, color wise anyway. That kind of thing if it's truly mud. Luckily, I don't. I have yet to, I usually have a foot or two, and if you got a foot or two, I mean, sometimes you can use these when the lighting, and just sometimes if they're in the mood, which I haven't even really tried that this year. The old place I used to fish, I don't think it's that great, and possibly even something like that, like Fire Tiger. That's kind of a Fire Tiger, and then that's what do they call that, coleslaw or whatever. In whatever the brightest you can get in a big blade, I would have a big blade in the brightest color I could get. I would have a either jackhammer knockoff or something. I don't know about a thunder crickets, and then those jabberjaws, in my opinion, are a softer thump. But also, like the loudest cranks you can get, also because the place we did used to fish. Now, this is what's funny is we'd catch a bass every once in a while. We were bass fishing, but there's this. I think it's called. We called it the watershed in Odessa, and it's got this little creek feeding into it, and it just always stays muddy. It's loaded with catfish, little channel cats. But you talk about we were throwing. I want to say not wiggle warts. We were throwing. If you guys remember the Man's Baby 1 minus, we were throwing those like as close as you could to the bank and just retrieving them. And those catfish were finding that bait and eating it, and we were catching them right and left. And it was so muddy, and I know we weren't just happening to pump. Like every one we caught, it was in their mouth. They were trying to eat it, and I know that they were going to the sound of it. So that lateral line, that muddy water, you just find that right. So like that kind of bait, no. You want something like a crazy the bigger the rattle trap, the better, and the louder, the better. And then crankbaits. Where's my crankbait? So yeah, if I was going to go fish the watershed, which is pure mud, like chocolate milk, I would probably throw these before I even tried throwing chatterbaits. I would throw chatterbaits, but I would probably start with the loudest thing and the brightest I had. So even these the real bright white ones sometimes will work. But like this dude right here would probably shine. In the muddy water. Either of these dudes, probably this one, but I don't think this one. No, see that? This guy. That's the one. That's the one you want. That's going to have enough noise, should bring them in if they're in that kind of mood. No, these guys are pretty subtle. They still possibly would work. But I would throw the bigger, louder, and then if they won't hit the bigger, then just go smaller. But if I'm in muddy water, that's also when I would probably add rattles to my, you could throw a jig with rattles. Yeah, see the ATVs, the little one of those, they're quiet, not going to be that good. They're not going to be they have the vibration that they can sense that too. But I like loud and proud. Oh my God. I didn't even get these out. I was going to get these out today and throw them on that yeah, that guy I would probably throw. Is that a 5XD? Yeah, 5XD. Depending on where you're at, deeper rocky areas or something. This guy though, I don't know why I haven't liked this. I don't think. He's got a little knock to him. Wiggle warts. So, I don't know. I gotta regroup, see if I want to go in the morning, or I may just wait. I'm sure Fishing Guy says he bought the 5/8 Thunder Crickets and the Blue Glimmer. Nice. Caught a 6.6 at Lake of the Ozarks last weekend. That's the only keeper you caught, though. Yeah, unfortunately the man's baby 1- or whatever, that bait, they should bring it back, because they all talk about, oh man, you get this square bill and it runs in super shallow water, and I'm like, well, the 1- wasn't necessarily a square bill, because it would stick to wood pretty easy, but man, you talk about just this shallow almost. And what's the thing was, towards the end, they totally lost their quality control, because I remember buying them from way back when. Their paint was very good and their bluegill looked very good, but then their paint started fading and their baits lost, like you never could tell where they were going to run when you bought a new one. Some of them would be like almost a wake bait, and others would get about a foot down, and it was just like all over everywhere. So anyway, all right guys, I'm gonna get out of here. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. I'm going to try to do probably a video tomorrow. If I don't go fishing, I'll do more